On.
Hey there, welcome back to the pod. Today we're going to talk about some Blazers trades that could feasibly happen this offseason. Last week we talked about trades involving Jeremy Grant, is that right? I already forgot. Yeah, Jeremy Grant. And today we're going to be talking about Brogdon trades. Riley, you saw a comment that involved Brogdon and a few other players in a comment on our last video. What was that trade?
Yeah, we're gonna bridge the gap here, and we're gonna talk about what if we traded Jeremy Grant and Malcolm Brogdon at the same time. And this Hawks fan who is watching our video, thank you for watching. Not only wants Jeremy Grant and Malcolm Brogdon, but also DeAndre Ayton. In return for those three players, giving up Clint Capella, who's maybe the most interesting, as well as Hunter, Okongwu, Bogdanovich. So four players for three.
Let's put it
It's
up on the screen.
definitely an interesting idea. We've talked a lot on this podcast about how it's always interesting talking with different fan bases because different fan bases value their players so very differently. And according to this person who must run some kind of podcast or talk situation themselves, said that about half of the Hawks fans that they talked to liked the trade, and about half of them didn't, either because of Aiton's mindset issues or Grant's contract. What do you guys think about this trade from a Blazers perspective?
So I just want to start off by saying this week we're going to see the realism on these trades, okay? Last week we saw maybe some fans didn't agree with the value. That's okay. Let's see what you think of this instead. So, here's what I'm going to say. I'll kind of break it down really quick. I think the key number for me out of all this is actually the cap. So in this case, the Blazers are gaining 11 mil total in cap room, and the Hawks are gaining like 11 million onto their payroll. So that is nice. However, I think Kirby, you kind of brought it up before we started talking when we looked at this. The Blazers, in my opinion, are giving up, and in yours, are giving up the three best players in the deal. And you go down the line, Capella, yes, he's a 1 year deal, so he's kind of expiring. He's older, he's not going to fit the long-term core. You can maybe flip him and be Trader Joe Cronin. Uh, DeAndre Hunter, I think he's been, from an outsider's fan point of view, he's been nothing but really a disappointment. He's kind of, to me, the prototypical most meh player in the league. Like if there was like an average player that I could think of, it would be him. Uh,
Marvin Williams.
yeah, he's like Marvin Williams. Yeah, he's 6'8", so that is something the Blazers could use, right? Some 6'8" size, a wing that actually has size. Bogdanovich does not fit the long-term core, really. We're kind of set at guard here, in my opinion, at least going forward. So he's another guy that you'd have to kind of move. And then Okongwu is interesting, in my opinion. He's a good young player. The issue again is he's 6'8". And in a league that's going to be dominated by guys like Victor and Chet, I don't love a 6'8" center going forward. I just don't love that. And I know he probably has a long wingspan and reach, but uh, that's just tough to look at that number on the board. And maybe that's just heightism. I don't know. But when our own relative podcaster on the podcast, Riley, is taller than that player, that just gives me pause. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about this trade. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I think we need to be looking at getting young picks or young players coming forward that are going to be a long-term fit on the core. You can argue Okongwu would, but 6'8" gives me a lot of pause.
Yeah, it's not nearly enough in return for those three guys. I think that the Blazers should be looking at moving all three of those guys, Aiton, Grant, and Brogdon. But in return, you want assets to help the team, obviously, moving forward. You can't just get rid of them to get rid of them to clear it out. And for cap space, it's like that's part of it. You do want to move those guys to allow the Scoot Hendersons and the Shadens and the young guys to flourish. But you want to get a double win, kill two birds with one stone and get something of some value back for him, a young player, a pick, something. you're just getting nothing back in return. I don't really think any of these four players would stick or would be part of the future building plans of the Blazers. So yeah, I hope that they're able to get a lot more for those three guys. I think just for Ayton alone, you should be able to get, a good young player that I don't see here or a pick, which I don't see here. So no deal.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that this is a situation where, people who are too close to the situation, just as fans, which I mean, we're probably too close to the Blazers as fans, in order to look at these things objectively. Um, but I think trying to be as objective as you can to give up the three best players in this trade and not even get a pick when we're trying to rebuild is just not the way to go. We are seeing DeAndre Ayton's reputation rear its ugly head. I'm afraid that might be something we have to deal with going forward. I'm not saying that he can't rehabilitate his image. Maybe he can. Maybe he'll do fine. But it's always going to be something that comes up when you're talking about trades with DeAndre, where people think that he should be valued lower just because of the fact that he kind of has a weird mindset or he doesn't seem to, play when it matters most. It's going to be a factor for a guy who's supposed to be kind of a star player.
Before we move on to the next trade, I just have one comment because I keep seeing this about Jeremy Grant's deal, right? The number definitely looks large and it jumps off the page at you. I want people to go ahead and look at what the next cap deal is going to look like when this TV deal kicks in. Max players are going to be getting probably 70 to 80 million per year. A guy like Victor Wembanyama could be making $100 million per year. Jeremy Grant, as it stands right now, takes up only 20% of the cap as like a team's third best player. That is not that bad. Yes, it's a big deal and it looks big on paper, but it's not some toxic Ben Simmons contract. Jeremy Grant is a good player that shoots, 40% from three and is switchable on defense and can score in ISO, which I mean, come on. It's not like you're going to need to attach assets to him. So that's what I saw a lot of in the last video. So this Jeremy Grant's contract thing, that is overblown, in my opinion. After looking at the numbers and especially looking at the future numbers, he's going to be a drop in the bucket when his deal's almost at the end. It's going to be not even anything. So the deals are going to be crazy in the future, just so everybody knows. Anyways, I just wanted everybody to know that. This other trade, Kirby,
Yep.
let's hear about it from you. You saw it on Rip City Project.
Yep. It was Brogdon, Robert Williams in the 34th pick for, let me bring it up
I got
again,
it pulled up.
for
Keldon.
Keldon Johnson and Zach Collins of the San
Zach
Antonio
back.
Spurs. Yeah, bringing Zach Collins back. Yeah, this one was on Rip City Project. I kind of like it, to be honest with you. It's Keldon Johnson would be an interesting fit, I feel like, in the Blazers. He can kind of play that wing spot. He has a very all-around sort of polished game, quite a bit different from some of the young guys we have. I don't know how much of a floor spacer he really is, which the Blazers definitely need around Scoot and Shaden, I believe. But I don't know. He's still pretty young and could fit sort of a gap sort of guy. I don't think he's really going to be in that like future championship team, but he might be a guy that kind of bridges the gap a little bit.
I mean, bringing Zach Collins back, you're trading one often injured center for the one that was often injured, and Zach's been a little healthier lately, but so that's part of it, and you are actually adding cap in this move, and so that's kind of interesting. Not very much, obviously. Robert Williams, his health is up in the air. That lowers his value, definitely. So you might want to be able to package him in a deal like this. You're also giving up the 34th pick in the second round there. And I don't think the Blazers are going to use all four draft picks. Definitely not. And they can't really. They're kind of in a bind, but it's kind of a weird one to me. Keldon Johnson, he's 6'5". 6'5" wings. They don't do
Yeah,
it for me.
that is
They
definitely a knock that I
they
noticed.
have long arms, I get it, but it reminds me of another 6'5" wing the Blazers know. Maybe a vet, a rich man's version of him, Nasir Little, right? So Nasir Little was 6'5" wing, similar game. Obviously, Keldon Johnson's better. I'm not saying Keldon Johnson's Little level, but the game reminds me of that. And I just want size on the wing for once, please, please. And I don't really love Keldon Johnson on the defensive end. Um, Malcolm Brogdon, though, I mean, it's not like you're gonna get everything for him. So I don't hate the move. It's an interesting move, and it might be close to fair value. Maybe just not one that I would go for.
Yeah, to me, this seems like a trade that would have been proposed by a San Antonio fan. And I'm not saying that it's like totally unfair or that it's bad for the Blazers, but I think that Brogdon would be a great fit for them as Wembanyama gets better and starts to grow. I mean, imagine that kind of lob threat that those two guys could have. And, most likely San Antonio is going to try to get a star point guard to start pretty quickly, and to be able to put him, under Malcolm Brogdon's tutelage would be a great fit for them. Robert Williams would be a pretty good backup who plays a little bit different than Zach does. I think that would be a good fit for them. The thing I don't like about it from the Blazers' perspective is I just don't think we should be giving up draft picks and not getting any in return. I mean, if maybe we were getting some future draft picks, in next year's draft or something like that, because you're right, we probably can't use them all this year, but for me, it's all about stocking up draft picks for the next 3 years or so. And yeah, getting, Zach Collins, I don't see him. He's not going to get better, or really grow all that much more from where he's at right now. And yeah, Keldon might be an okay kind of a stopgap guy, but I don't think he's our future either. So I think that this really benefits San Antonio more than it does the Blazers, and it would just sort of extend this limbo of the Blazers not really knowing what era we're in. So I don't love it.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Riley. It's all about getting picks. So I have a couple more trades really quick to run through. These ones are probably more of a grounded trades. So we're not going to jump off the page and scream and shout at them, but I think that we'll see what you guys think. So this first one,
Oh,
the Sacramento
oh,
Kings.
hey,
Yeah,
oh.
yeah. Oh,
That's just
yeah.
jumping off
So
the page of me.
there's a couple things about this deal,
God,
right?
I don't know either one of these guys.
Yeah, so there's a couple things about this deal. So you're getting 10 mil, right? 10 mil in cap right there. The Kings are probably going to lose a guy like Malik Monk in the offseason due to free agency, in my opinion. I think he's a prime candidate to go to Orlando, which is another team I considered putting in a Malcolm Brogdon trade, but I think Orlando is going to try to go for Malik Monk, or they might go for Simons maybe. So I kind of steered away from Orlando. So I think it makes sense for the Kings 100%. I think he would be really good there coming off the bench if he's open to coming off the bench again in his career. Um, he would just provide shooting and the vet leadership that's needed to help them, right? For the Blazers' perspective, again, the cap space, getting 2 second-round picks, just adding onto the stockpile if you can't get a first-round pick, getting 2 seconds, right? Chris Duarte, he played for Oregon, right? He's kind of a older veteran young player. So, you know, I don't love Chris Duarte and Sasha Veznevkov, but again, you're looking at the net result of gaining some cap, gaining some picks here. That's kind of the end all be all of this deal, right? You don't go, wow, I love this, but it's all about the asset long-term game, which the Blazers need to get some cap room, and they're getting picks.
I might
And
be
we
the
have
classic overvaluing Blazers fan, but I would like a first rounder or a young prospect of some kind for Brogdon. I don't see either one from this team. I don't know anything about Vezenkov. I don't know if he could be, but I don't know if I would hitch my wagon to a guy I don't even know anything about. So yeah, I don't like the trade really.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not extremely exciting, but I do, we have to lose some guards. It's something that we've talked about just ad nauseum on this podcast, that we have to lose some of this guard bloat we have. And yeah, I want to get more for Brogdon too, but if we can maybe if other things that happen this offseason, get us some more exciting picks or something like that, then maybe we do just need to drop him for salary purposes and for space. And maybe this wouldn't be the worst thing to clear more space out.
This doesn't have to be the only move, by the way. This is just the
Exactly.
Brogdon portion. If
Yeah.
everything's going, Brogdon's a part of it. This is definitely not overvaluing Malcolm Brogdon, one could argue, right?
You
Okay,
just wanted to
so
make sure you weren't overvaluing him.
I'm not going to overvalue anyone. Okay, but what about this one? This one's interesting and it's very complicated. Are you ready? Very complicated for everyone watching this. The most complicated trade of all time. Took me hours. Here it is.
Simpsons.
So this one makes perfect sense to me. I kind of like this one the best.
I like this one too.
This all depends on what's going on with Philadelphia and their off season. They they have Tyrese Maxey, right? They lost James Harden. They have a lot of cap room. They're talking about maybe trying to convince Paul George to go that way. So their cap is up in the air, but they're gonna have some cap. They finally have Tobias Harris coming off the books. I know Philadelphia fans are shouting for joy at this, right?
Tobias Harris over me?
Tobias Harris over me. Well, we're getting a lottery protected first round pick. You're not going to get an unprotected pick for Malcolm Brogdon. But the cool thing about this move is it gives the Blazers salary, some cap relief, and it gives them a first round pick. Not a lot of young guys on Philadelphia that jumped out at me, but the pick is a pretty good gamble for me just because Embiid's long-term health. You don't know what it's going to be. It could be like this season where he bangs his knee and then they come back and they're like the 7th seed, and this pick is like what the Warriors pick was in that range, like 17th overall or something like that. And you get 22 mil in cap relief. So
Can I ask a question?
what's the question?
If the Sixers are in the lottery in 2028, do the Blazers just lose the pick, or
No,
does it roll over?
most likely you work out negotiations where the pick rolls over the next season, and you can't, I don't know how deep it could go on Fanspo, but you could say, okay, well, next season it's only top 10 protected then.
Yeah.
And you can just keep, and then each trade is different how they work it out like that. And so it would depend on what Joe negotiates. But I like this move just because I think it makes sense for both teams. I think Philadelphia could really use a guy like Malcolm Brogdon, depending on who they get in the offseason. This could look a little different depending on their free agent moves, but if they're trying to get help for Embiid, which I'm sure they are, and another guard when Maxey's not in, so he doesn't have to do it all, Brogdon, I think, fits them well.
Yeah, it makes sense for the Sixers, makes sense for the Blazers. I like it. It'd be cool if they could maybe try to negotiate themselves down to a top 10 protected pick, or maybe
That'd be
try to
cool.
work on the margins a little bit there, but I like the idea overall.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of it too because again, like I just said, we have to lose some of these guards, and I'm all about stockpiling picks. The better you can negotiate that pick, the better. And not to change the subject too much, but can I just say real quick that PG-13 going to Philadelphia would just be the most PG-13 move you can possibly imagine. Just continuing the tour of mediocrity, continuing the tour of failure as he just goes from team to team, losing in the first round of the playoffs. It would be just chef's kiss, perfect way for his career to go at this point. Just more teaming up with star players that can't figure out how to get it done. I hope I get to see it happen. It'd be
Keep
perfect.
cooking, Riley. Damn. Keep it going. It was a bad shot though. Let the story be told.
That'll never get old, right? Even 6 years later or whatever, it's not going to get old. 5 years.
All right, guys, what did you think about these trades? Which one was your favorite? Which one was your least favorite? Give us some more ideas in the comments, and we'll probably go over them next time because that was kind of fun.
Hint, Anthony Simons trades. If
Yeah,
anybody
Anthony
has any
Simons is
ideas
next.
for Anthony Simons trades, put them down below.
There you go. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye.